The markets are closed, but the business stories are just heating up. Hello, I'm Mai Rodriguez. Catch up with us on Business Brief. Asian markets advanced today with Japan's benchmark index near the symbolic 50,000 level as conservative lawmaker Sanei Takaichi becomes the country's first female prime minister. All major Asian markets are in the green, with Hong Kong's Hang Seng rising the most at nearly 2%. In the currency market, the US dollar appreciates against the Japanese yen and the South Korean won. It is flat against the Hong Kong dollar and Singapore dollar, but slips against the Thai baht. The Australian dollar, meanwhile, weakens versus the greenback. In commodities, gold is steady with a downward bias, while oil prices trade lower. In crypto, Bitcoin falls nearly 3% and Ethereum dips almost 4%. The Independent Commission for Infrastructure is urged to look into alleged connections between First Lady Liza Marcos and tech entrepreneur Mai Rodriguez, founder of Cherry Mobile, who has been linked to the flood control scandal. Cultural and peace advocate John Santander submitted a letter to ICI Chair Andres Reyes at the Commission's office. It was received by ICI Executive Director Brian Keith Hosaka. He also showed two photos of Liza and Ngu together. Ngu was named by ex-DPWH Undersecretary Roberto Bernardo as Senator Francis Escudero's bagman. Santander's letter also cites a Bilyonaryo news channel report about Ngu and Cork Wine Bar, a spot where Bernardo allegedly spoke with Escudero regarding infrastructure projects. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. names 3 new members to the Government Service Insurance System Board of Trustees to stabilize the state pension fund after a public dispute over investment losses. The appointments come after the resignation of former Ombudsman Maria Merceditas Gutierrez, Emmanuel Samson, and Rita Riddle, who had called for the immediate removal of GSIS President Jose Arnulfo Wick Veloso over investment decisions allegedly costing the fund around 8.8 billion pesos. Zenon Cruz Audencial and Enrico Gregorio Molina Trinidad will replace Gary de Guzman and Samson, while de Guzman and Gilbert Tansadsad succeed Gutierrez and Riddle. Audencial and Trinidad will serve as acting members representing the banking, finance, investment, and insurance sectors. Former Senator Antonio Trillanes files a graft and plunder complaint against former President Rodrigo Duterte and Senator Bongo before the office of the Ombudsman. Trillanes alleges Duterte and Go abused their positions to award around 200 infrastructure projects worth nearly 7 billion pesos to CLTG Builders, which is owned by Go's father, and Alfrego Builders, owned by his brother. Trillanes said he had secured documents that can be used as evidence to support his case. Senator Bongo brushes off Trillanes' complaint, calling it a diversionary tactic. In a press briefing this afternoon, the senator dared Trillanes to file cases against the real perpetrators behind the flood control scandal.
To Trillanes, you are barking at the wrong tree. Kung seryoso ka talaga, bakit di mo kasuhan yung mga totoong mga korap talaga? Bakit di mo kasuhan yung mga financials mo? Yung mga contractor, alam mo yun. Alam mo yun. Kita mo na. Nakailang buwan na tayo dito sa pagdidinig sa Senado. Ilang hearings na po. Lumalabas naman yung totoo, sino yung mga contractor. Yung talagang may-ari, sila mismo yung may kontrata, sila yung mismong kumikita, sila yung contractor, sila pa yung congressman, sila yung habulin mo, Trillanes. Ayaw mong habulin dahil financer mo nga.
The Commission on Elections will soon be releasing the names of those linked to possible illegal campaign donations. On BNC's At the Forefront, COMELEC Chairman George Garcia said after conducting an investigation on the 2022 elections, they uncovered at least 55 contractors who gave contributions to political parties, candidates, or party list groups. Garcia added they are working with the DPWH to determine whether the 55 are public works contractors. Under the Omnibus Election Code, those with existing contracts with the government cannot give donations or contributions to candidates, political parties, and party lists.
Are you going to release that list po at
Yes,
some
ma'am.
point? Yung mga
Definitely.
contractors and kanino dinonate?
Yes, ma'am. Definitely, Attorney Carrie, we're going to release the list after the confirmation by the DPWH because it's really so unfair at this point. We realize that to release immediately the names of these contractors, of course, the corresponding candidates who received the donation simply because bakit namin i-release kung ang confirmation pala ni DP hindi naman pala nangungontrata sa gobyerno.
Garcia also said what compelled the COMELEC to launch a probe was the admission by contractor Lawrence Lubiano that he gave a 30 million peso campaign donation to Senator Cheese Escudero in the 2022 elections. Blockchain can be a game changer in combating corruption in the Philippines by making public funds and government spending completely transparent and non-alterable. That's according to Paul Soliman, Chairman and CEO of Bayani Chain Ventures. On BNC's Business 360, he explained that a blockchain-based system will provide a gold standard of accountability where even watchdogs can investigate spending without government censorship. He also highlighted a successful implementation with the Budget Department where blockchain now ensures public data is accessible and resilient even if government websites go down. He urged both the government and the private sector to embrace open, transparent technologies like blockchain to restore public trust in governance and financial management.
We saw in a lot of research that they don't trust anymore, centralized authority to handle data, to handle these documents, etc. So it's really a high time for the government to reconsider working with private industry to have a transparency system. We can call it national ledger system where anybody, any citizen from the world can see how transparent we are in terms of budget, projects line item, the quantities of or the location of the flood control project.
We're taking a short break. More stories are coming up next. You're watching Business Brief. You're back on Business Brief. President Bongbong Marcos led the launch of the Toll Collection System Interoperability Project in Calamba, Laguna. Also present in today's launch are Ultra Bilyonaryo Ramon Ang and Bilyonaryo Manuel V. Pangilinan. The project streamlines the current RFID registration system, allowing motorists to keep either their Easy Trip or Auto Sweep stickers. The initial implementation prioritizes private vehicles or individual accounts starting today, while corporate or fleet accounts will follow next year.
Simula ngayon, iisang RFID sticker na lang ang kailangan para sa mga toll expressway natin sa buong Luzon. Malinaw ang layunin nito, mapabilis ang daloy ng trapiko sa mga toll gate. At totoo naman, malaki ang tulong nito. Ngunit hindi natin may kaila ang nagdudulot din ng dalawang RFID systems na kalituhan.
Pure Energy Holdings Corporation and its affiliates Pure Water Corporation and Quad Water Corporation are launching a tender offer amounting to approximately 99.69 million pesos for shares of Coal Asia Holdings Incorporated. This comes after their purchase of a 71.68% stake in the company from its major shareholders. Under the plan, Pure Water and Quad Water will acquire up to 11.33 billion common shares, or 28.32% of Coal Asia's outstanding stock at a price of 88 centavos per share. The tender offer will run from November 14 to December 12, with a block sale targeted around December 17. The Public Works Department making a sales pitch of reforms to the business community as the country demands for accountability in the flood control scandal. Paulo Barcelon joins us for the details. Paulo.
My Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon asked help from the private sector a day after he did the same with lawmakers in the Senate. Secretary Dizon says reforms are already being done to weed out corruption in the agency and stressed the need for the business community to be vigilant.
Wala tayong sisinuin, wala tayong sasantuin. Kahit sino pa. Those were the exact words of the President himself. Ikalawa po, kailangan po mabalik ang pera ng mga kababayan natin. Ang pera nating lahat, kailangan po maibalik.
Dizon also says civil forfeiture proceedings are also being considered to seize properties allegedly bought using stolen flood control funds.
Hindi po kriminal ang kasong yan. Yan po ay civil case lang. At makonti lang pong ebidensya, makukuha na po natin at masusubasta na po natin ang mga properties ng lahat ng mga nagnakaw na to.
For Go Negosyo founder Joey Concepcion, the MSME community supports the call for transparency but urged the government to clean up its act before the country hosts the ASEAN Summit in 2026.
It will take time. It will take time, but I think hopefully people learn from this, what happened. And there are a lot of people out here, Filipino people, who are really challenged, especially our micro entrepreneurs who earn just enough to live that day.
Secretary Dizon immediately left the briefing this morning. We've been told he's going out on meetings and catching up on fieldwork he missed because of the Senate budget hearings. Mai.
Thank you for that report, Paulo Barcelon. DMCI Holdings Incorporated is declaring a special cash dividend of 48 centavos per share, totaling 6.4 billion pesos. The dividend will be paid on November 21st to shareholders on record as of November 5, with an ex-dividend date of November 4. Chairman and President Isidro Consunji said the company continues to deliver value to shareholders despite a challenging environment. Together with earlier cash dividends of 60 centavos per share, DMCI's total dividend for 2025 amounts to 1 peso 8 centavos per share, or 14.3 billion pesos. This represents 76% of 2024 core net income and a dividend yield of about 10% based on the October 20 closing price of 11 pesos and 20 centavos. EEI Corporation is transferring its training facilities in Tanza, Cavite worth 164 million pesos to its wholly owned subsidiary EEI Training Academy Corporation in a tax-free property for share swap. The board approved the transaction on October 20 with a definitive agreement to be disclosed to the Securities and Exchange Commission and the exchange upon execution. The move aims to improve operational efficiency and strengthen EEI Training Academy's capabilities. It is expected to streamline processes, equip the workforce with the right skills, lower operational costs, and enhance service delivery. We're taking another breather, a look at how Philippine shares did today. When we return, stay tuned. U.S. President Donald Trump and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese signed a critical minerals agreement. The Australian leader described it as an $8.5 billion pipeline that is ready to go. Based on a copy of the agreement, the two countries will each invest $1 billion over the next 6 months into mining and processing projects. It will also set a minimum price floor for critical minerals. Critical minerals include rare earths, lithium, and nickel. The U.S. officials recently condemned China's expansion of rare earth export controls as a threat to global supply chains. In Paris, the Louvre Museum is still closed to tourists on Monday as authorities continue to probe the theft of French crown jewels over the weekend. Among the items taken was a jeweled headpiece worn by royalty. It features 24 salient sapphires and more than 1,000 diamonds that can be detached and worn as brooches. The French Justice Minister admitted the Louvre heist exposed security lapses at the museum. A member of the French Senate believes the jewelry may have been transported out of the country already. Philippine shares rise in the second trading day of the week. The PSEI closed nearly 0.2% higher at 60.93. Majority of the sectoral indices were in the red, with mining and oil falling the most at nearly 3%. Decliners outnumbered advancers 127 to 84, with value turnover reaching 5.2 billion pesos. The day's most active stocks ended mixed, with JG Summit Holdings rising the most at nearly 4%. DigiPlus fell the most at almost 4%. In currency markets, the peso trades at 58.15 against the US dollar, up from 58.17 previously. That's a wrap for today's Business Brief. I'm Mai Rodriguez. Join us again tomorrow as we bring you the stories that help you plan your next big, bold moves in business. Only here on the Bilyonaryo News Channel.